Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Today's book, we are going to be talking about Neil Gaiman's American Gods, this critically acclaimed book and Amazon Prime Video's TV series. So, if you're interested and want to know what I thought of this book, stay tuned, coming right up. Alright, so American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Critically acclaimed book, Amazon Prime Video series. Everybody loves this book. And honestly, I think there are some good reasons to love this book. But I also think there are some reasons why maybe it's not as good as it lives up to the praise that it's received, at least for me personally. So let's start with the basic premise. The basic premise of American Gods is the old gods, primarily the pagan gods, focusing a lot around the Norse gods specifically. So of course Odin and Loki and all them are going up against the new gods of America. So it's things like Mr. World, the media, technology. And it is coming to a head where both sides of this are going to clash in what is set up to be this epic battle between the old versus the new gods. And we have our main character Shadow, who kind of gets caught up in this entire epic clash battle that's going to go on within this whole world and story that Neil Gaiman has created. Now Shadow, he's recently been released from prison and he's lost everything. He expected to go home to his wife, he expected to have a job, and all of that just is stripped and taken from him. He is basically hit rock bottom, as if prison wasn't bad enough. He's lost 3 years of his life. He never wants to find himself back in prison. He's genuinely a good guy who made some mistakes and found himself on the wrong side of the law. He served his time, he wants to do better, and he wants to get back to a normal life. But of course, losing his family, his wife, his job, and everything and he had set up, it was all going so well for him. All of this is taken away, and he's let out into a world in which there's nothing left for him. And at this point, this is of course when the gods sweep in, and Mr. Wednesday hires Shadow on to basically be his errand boy, driver, assistant, bodyguard, all this kind of thing. So Shadow's kind of swept away into this world of the gods, and everything is kind of building up to what is supposed to be this epic clash at the end of the story and the final conflict between the old versus the new gods. And you know, the build up, the storyline I thought went really well, but I didn't think there was much of a payoff, but we'll get to that in a little bit further in the review. So some of the things with this that I absolutely loved. I love the concept of the book. You know, just the idea of the gods warring for supremacy, and the idea that the gods derive their power from the faith and belief of their worshippers and followers. That is something that is, I think, is a really cool, awesome idea, and I think it makes a lot of sense in a way as well. And of course, this idea that the gods are manipulating individuals in order to achieve their ends. So they're using people, they are creating these events to drive people to a place of vulnerability so that they could swoop in and save the day, basically. That's what's going on here, and that's what's happened with Shadow. And that's definitely something that I could imagine gods doing in any sense of the word. And so that for me, it worked really well within the storyline, and I like that aspect of it. You know, I like the idea of this character, Shadow, who's this genuinely good guy who just wants to do what's right. And of course, now that everything has gone crazy, he's in this world of the gods. Not only is his dead wife not dead but not living, she wants to come back to life, but she's been basically haunting him, but not in a ghost sense. Like, she's actually walking around, talking, interacting with him in the physical world, but at the same time she's not alive, she's dead. So this is kind of plays into the story of Shadow wants to do right by his wife and bring her back, even though she herself has betrayed him in a way. So that's kind of his love for his wife kind of really comes through within the storyline. That being said, I did find that there were some drawbacks to the story as well, on the whole overall book itself. Okay, so what didn't I like about this book? Well, there are two aspects of this book that I didn't like all that much. Mainly, they kind of felt like, filler, particularly the story of Salim, who encounters this djinn in a taxi cab in New York, and basically has his time with him and basically takes over the taxi driver's job because the djinn is no longer there. This is something that just felt like filler. The story didn't progress beyond that particular character's viewpoint or plot. There didn't seem to be a lot of purpose behind that. And the other one is, don't even remember this character's name, but she's one of the ancient gods of Africa who's working the streets in LA. And her particular role, she had like 2 different scenes within this story. Again, her story didn't really progress much beyond that. She's like a goddess of love and sex or whatever, I don't know, but not much went beyond that within her particular story. I don't even remember this god's name, so it kind of tells you how much she was involved with this, and it didn't really progress much beyond that. So her aspect of it just wasn't there for me. Those 2 particular plot lines, and kind of the other area of this book that I think could have been done better. Now, when we imagine this idea of the gods fighting and battling it out, they are, you imagine these gods who are supposed to be these super powerful beings, controlling the elements and, clashing in that respect. And really, that didn't happen within this book. I mean, there was indication, of course, that the gods were influencing the story. Absolutely, they were kind of directing events in some sense, but in terms of the demonstration of the power that we would think of behind this idea of gods, just wasn't there within this book. And so it's not something that really seemed to work well in terms of overall plot and execution, though I did really like the world tree and the scenes behind that where Shadow was involved when it came down to the events that happened at the world tree, and particularly Shadow. I don't want to get into any spoilers, but I really liked what was described with Shadow's experiences on the world tree, and the kind of insights that he learned from that and where it went from there. So that was really good. I really like that. Overall, I think it was definitely a good book. I don't think it's quite worth the praise that it's been getting. It's definitely, for me at least, not a top star review. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. Most people tend to be giving this, high 4s or 5 stars. Not me. I just think that there's some aspects of it that didn't work quite as well as I guess I had hoped for it, and maybe that's my own failing, getting my hopes up, seeing how well this has been received and critically acclaimed. But overall, those are just some of my thoughts on American Gods by Neil Gaiman. So again, what I liked, the concept was great, the idea of gods fighting gods, awesome, the idea of gods manipulating individuals for their own gain and influencing events to create that kind of situation, and the experiences of Shadow on the world tree I thought were really good and fun and influential as well. And of course, overall, well, influential in the sense that they influenced his life perspective. Overall, I thought it was a good book, not an amazingly awesome book, not a terrible book, but a good. So I got 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads for Neil Gaiman's American Gods. And those are just some of my thoughts on this book. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, we will see you next time on the next episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Until then, keep on reading. Bye!